Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 21st chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As history moves towards God's fulfillment, there will be frightening signs and events. Before the end, believers will draw strength from their relationship to God and will be given the words they need to testify and to endure without fear. A reading from Luke. When some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, Jesus said, "As for those things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another, all will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" And he said, "Be aware that you are not led astray. For many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and the time is near. Do not go after them. When you hear words and insurrections, do not be terrified. For these things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." Then he said to them, "Nations will rise against nations, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquake, and in various places famine and plagues, and there will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. But before all this occur, they will arrest you and prosecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your mind not to prepare your defense in advance, for I will give you words and a wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, by relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be handed by all because of my name, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your souls." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You all may be seated. Here offer, hope that will work. You know, friends, Christ will come. Christ will come back again. But before that, there's a hard time is waiting. That's what the story is. Hard times. If there are a Gamecock fan in this room, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The hard time. I was listening to the radio of the game, and I hear this excitement of the first half of the announcers going crazy. We are ahead, 30-3 to number 3 ranked team. And the latter half, sorry, that was very devastating. There was hard times. But when Jesus talks about the hard time, about the end time, he talks about the temples in Jerusalem, which was when Jesus was born. That was the time they refurbished everything. So it was like pretty new. At the time, it was pretty nice, expanded. It took 8 years of construction to be, like expanding all things. And I read somewhere in the commentary, there's like they even use like the best material at the time, like silver and gold. That beautiful temple will tremble, thrown down. Nations rise against nations. Natural disaster will strike, and political upheaval will happen, and the everyday people struggle to survive day to day. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? I don't know about you, when I watch news, that's what I hear quite often these days. Words, people struggling for the next day's meal. People suffering. I honestly do not know that we are living in the end time as Jesus describes in today's reading. But at least I would like to acknowledge that we are living in pretty hard time. As a nation, as a community, and as an individual. There are so many things weighs on our heart. So going through this hard time was never questioned. Jesus never questioned that hard time will occur. But let me back up. Hard time will happen. When you're facing the hard time, how would you do that? How would you live at such hard time when you are experiencing hard time? Some may say we look up the sky and see those blue skies. That could be something for some. The book I'm currently reading, titled Brooding to Change the World. The author talks about the bird after the Katrina's destroyed her house. The bird she encountered gave her courage to live for another day. We deal with a different way for the hard time. And in today's reading, Jesus also gives the idea, or with the remarks of what to do with this hard time. In verse 13, he says, you, meaning his disciples, will be taken into custody. You may be arrested, but it will be an opportunity to testify. You will become a witness, and I will give you words and wisdom in that time. So don't worry, you will be fine. Opportunities in challenging times. That is the words I've been thinking for past week, There are hard times right now. There's too many times I roll my eyes. But are there any opportunities? Like Jesus talks about in here of our hard times. So there's the one day I was walking around the neighborhood. That's what I always do anyway. But it was just, all of a sudden, it just dawned on me. So I will tell you that, God's people have been doing that, being the witness and being the testimony to God's love all the time, especially in hard times. Like the example it came to my mind was the very, very early Christians in the first century. It's like immediate follower of Jesus. Bless you. They are known for their weirdness. They are known for their weirdness to picking up those abandoned babies on the street. That's what the Christians in the first century was known. And they took care of them. You know, it was the Roman Empire was the Parish Empire. If those doesn't fit in, those perceived misfits are abandoned. And the Christians actually went after and took care of them. They took care of tiny God's neighbors. Well, I remember the missionary in Japan. She came and she saw that those elderly members were abandoned because the family didn't take care anymore. They went after and gathered and took care of them. That's the countless stories I can go on. But what I noticed next was we do the same thing. We do the same things, to care for God's neighbors in all those times. So a few weeks ago, I went to the convocation in Lutheran Village. That was the time I meet the other pastors. Like 3 times in a year that I meet other pastors. So I saw the Deacon Catherine and Pastor Joss from Clemson and Deacon Dallas and the Pastor David from Newberry and Pastor Fred, and they all asked about our parish and how the Fairfax is doing. And I noticed the way they talked about us. They talked very fondly about the memory of us. Especially, I want to share with the Pastor Fred, which told me he was a quite frequent supply preacher at our parish. And he came to me and told me this story, that was a Sunday he was here and prayed for the following Sunday, you are voting to call me. But that the same Sunday that actually Pastor Fred was being voted on to call the congregation he was currently serving. And he said, you have in your church, in a town one, not the guy who is not tall and gray hair, and I was like, well, everyone's gray and everyone's old. I do not know which one you're talking about. But he tells this, that one man in our church, after he prayed for you guys as you are preparing to vote to call me, one of you, I figure out with the description. I think it was Frank. Asked Pastor Fred, can I pray for you as well? Because he was also having the congregation voting on him. And he still vividly remembered. That's really we're talking. He came to me and he tells me story. And I said, we are doing God's work here. Pray for somebody, it's a small thing, but that's a God's love, what we are doing. And you know what? The Deacon Dallas who came about a month ago for the South Carolina Lutheran Retreat Center, she was telling other leaders of the church who were sitting around and telling, Fairfax Lutheran, they are really tiny church down in like somewhere nowhere in South Carolina. But they are generous. They are constantly generous. That's what she was telling to others. And the honestly, that made me very smile. And they are very proud. You know, we struggle. We are not getting younger anymore. We are older and maybe smaller. But we are doing what the God's people are always doing, to care for God's neighbors, regardless of the time. So I just want to show you. So that I was thinking through, these are some of the things we have done since last year. I was like naming all the things, and we kind of did a lot last year than we realized. We do a lot for the community because we are God's people, because we care for God's neighbors. So let me conclude. Friends, we just need to keep doing. Keep going what we can do. Because one small act of love will lead to another act of love. Attending the health fair, really adding up more things than what I showed you. That's what I noticed for the past 3 years. So keep doing the things. Martin Luther said, or considered, he said, we don't know, he did it not. His famous word. Even tomorrow, when the world go into pieces or the world ends, I will plant an apple tree. So friends, let's keep planting, not necessarily the apple, but the seed of love to wherever we encounter for this afternoon and this coming year. Amen. And I forgot, please be nice to the game called fan this afternoon. They